parents made me pretend to be my sister for one day. Now I'm trapped in her marriage. My parents tugged at my clothes, practically ripping it off. Get changed. You have to get married. I was never meant to be a part of the deal, but when my twin sister ran off in the middle of the night, I had no choice. 500 guests were arriving in 4 hours, the family business was hanging on the line, and Grandpa's will needed one of us married. It was honestly overwhelmingly dramatic, like a Korean drama that I wanted no part in. We're broke, Mom sobbed, gripping my shoulders. This marriage was supposed to save us. You have to put on her dress, my father said, his hands shaking. Just for the ceremony. We'll figure out the rest later. I saw my father about to lose the business he'd built. I saw my mother breaking apart. I thought about my little brother's future disappearing. Just the ceremony, I said, not realizing just how heartbreaking this would all end. I walked down the aisle like I was walking towards the guillotine, and my husband Damon was the cold executioner. He watched me with a cold stare, jaw clenched tightly. My voice shook during our exchange of vows. I, Catherine, take you Damon as my lawfully wedded husband. Each word tasted like lies. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," I turned and kissed his cheek instead. Quick, barely there, but enough to satisfy the crowd. At the reception, while everyone celebrated, my parents pulled us aside. You need to stay married for 6 months, my dad said. The business requires it. And so I moved in with him. The first night in his penthouse, I locked myself in the guest room. Don't enter my room, got it? He raised an eyebrow, leaning against the door with his arms crossed. Your room? It's my penthouse. I shook my head. Our penthouse. I'm your wife, so you have to follow my rules too. He grinned, clearly amused. Good night, Catherine, he called out, using my sister's name. I looked at him and locked the door shut, yelling through the door. Good night. The next morning, his mother showed up beaming at us. So tell me all about your first night together, dear. Spare me no details. I want to know what passionate night awaits two strangers forced into a marriage. Damon laughed at my shocked expression. Mom loves a good drama. She's been watching something called Business Proposal, so ignore her crazy fantasies. I watched him chatting with his mom and found myself smiling at their warm conversation, completely different from the cold conversations about money and debt that we always had at home. I watched her drag him around malls all day, carrying bags all while he complained. I'm glad you're not as stiff anymore, Damon said, sitting beside me on the bench. I wonder if it means we'll be sharing a room tonight. I shot up on my feet. Absolutely not. He burst out into laughter. Sorry, it was a joke. Please sit down. Let's actually talk for once. We stayed there for a while, chatting about things we liked, hobbies, dreams. I love your mom, I told him, sighing with a smile. She's so warm and full of energy. I should have married her instead, I joked. Damon held his hand over his heart. You wound me with your words, he said dramatically with a grin. Then we got silent, watching the clouds and breeze pass. You know, he said, we're both forced into this. Let's be friends, not strangers. After that, we really got along well. We had movie nights at home, gossiped about work, even went out of town together, and eventually, I started looking forward to seeing him every morning. Then, one night, something changed between us. When his parents stayed with us for a week, we were suddenly forced to share the bedroom together. I'll just take the couch, he said, grabbing his pillow to leave the room. I shook my head and stood in front of the door. No, your parents will think something's up, I said, trying to whisper. Let's just sleep together, I said slowly, face turning red. With pillows in between, I quickly added. He stepped towards me. Are you sure those pillows will protect you? He said in a deep voice before laughing so loudly he started to cough. Sorry, you should have seen the way your mouth dropped. Anyway, yeah, don't worry. Pillows between. Got it. He hopped into bed and helped set up the pillow fortress. But even with that, I could barely sleep. But on the third night, I woke up with his arm around me, only to pretend it never happened later. Then it happened. One night, we were sitting in the reading nook beside the heater, talking about a book we'd both read when he suddenly placed his hand on my cheek and pulled me into a kiss. I pushed him away. No, I shouted, wiping my lips with my sleeve. I got up to leave. He grabbed my wrist. Elena, he called out my real name. I froze. What did you just call me? He ran his hand through his hair. I've known since you walked down that aisle. Your sister ran into my office the night before and told me everything, how you'd end up taking her place. You knew? My voice cracked. This whole time you knew and you let me suffer alone? Made me feel horrible for being someone I'm not? Forcing you into this fake marriage? Why? Why? Let's make things right. Let's finish the 6-month contract for business, get you your inheritance, and then get married again. For real this time. All this time, Damon, everyone's just been toying with me, using me for their gain. And what was I to you? Entertainment? I crashed on the couch crying my heart out. Please, he said, holding out a new ring. I shook my head. I can't, I whispered.